Welcome to Academy Live.
Welcome to Academy Live. Bessie's off today. She's working an event in Miami, but Rex and I are very excited to be talking to you about Cybersecurity Awareness Month. All month, we'll be bringing on guests to give you some tips to stay safe. I'm very excited about today's guest, and today we're going to be talking to Tracie Crites, and she has quite a history in the industry. There's a lot to offer in the conversation, but just tell you a little bit about her. Her first-time work combines her love of storytelling and technology into one role as the VP of Sales and Marketing at SecureNow. SecureNow helps MSPs focus on the human element of security by combining key components needed to identify, educate, and manage employee vulnerabilities. So this will be a great conversation today. But I want to start off with a little bit of information about Cybersecurity Awareness Month. When did it come about? Let's take a look at a little video that we have to tell us a little bit more about the history of Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Since 2004, the President of the United States and Congress have declared the month of October to be Cybersecurity Awareness Month, a dedicated month for the public and private sectors and the tribal communities to work together to raise awareness about the importance of cybersecurity. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, and the National Cybersecurity Alliance, NCA, are partnering to create resources and messaging for organizations to use when they talk with their employees, customers, and memberships about staying safe online.
It's hard to believe that it's been around that long, but Rex, what do you think? How important is this, and especially now? What do you think?
2004, it seems like forever ago. like literally, it's hard to comprehend that. But that's actually about the time that I was thinking cybersecurity was going to be a big deal. And I went out and did a bunch of studying through SANS and got my CISSP. A lot of people don't know that because I kind of let it go. I stopped renewing it many years ago as I stopped needing that as part of my career. But there was a time when I was doing that white hat hacking and working with large insurance companies. The problem was in 2004, we were way too early to that game, and the end user community was not ready to talk about it. And while I built out a pretty good cybersecurity, the basics of a really good cybersecurity program, we just couldn't sell it back in 2004. And it's been awesome to kind of watch how I guess it sucks that the bad guys are making it a thing, right? But it's been awesome to watch the community develop around protecting our partners, protecting our partners, protecting their customers. And Cybersecurity Awareness Month has been a big part of that.
Yeah. I do. I'm glad you reminded us about that, and that you've been through and you had your CISSP. I forget that, and the first thing that came to my mind was that explains a lot. But no, I think it's great to have that experience, and also we have another video we want to show you. Again, a lot of this information can seem very basic, kind of like 101 stuff, but it is amazing, how good it is to just kind of have these reminders. So here's a short video to kind of help us with some reminders on how to stay safe.
2023 marks the 20th annual Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And this year, CISA is launching a new awareness program that will encourage 4 simple steps everyone can take to stay safe online. Simple actions we should all take, not only during Cybersecurity Awareness Month, but every day throughout the year. 4 things you can do to keep yourself cyber safe. Number 1, use strong passwords and a password manager. Strong passwords are critical to protecting data. Number 2, turn on multi-factor authentication, or MFA. You need more than a password to protect your online accounts, And enabling MFA makes you significantly less likely to get hacked. Number 3, recognize and report phishing. Phishing emails, texts, and calls are the number one way data gets compromised. Be cautious of unsolicited emails, texts, or calls asking for personal information. Number 4, update software. Ensuring your software is up to date is the best way to make sure you have the latest security patches and updates on your devices. Regularly check manually for updates if automatic updates are not available, and keep operating systems, antivirus software, web browsers, and applications up to date. Remember these tips and stay cyber safe.
Good reminder. Again, it's amazing how, blocking and tackling, staying with the basics, how important that is.
Hang on real quick. I got to do my 2-factor. I'll be right there. All right, got it.
So
inconvenient. Am I back?
Rex. You're back. That extra 3 seconds.
I love the as an IT provider, right? I used to love trying to figure out how to walk that line between, security being in place, requires that effort to be secure, but still keeping the data available in a convenient way to the partners, right? To your end user, right? That's like a line you have to walk. And, I saw it in there. Yeah, all of that revolves around education, which I think is one of the things that makes me so happy that we're talking to Tracie today from Breach SecureNow, because I've always felt like the end user is the biggest vulnerability that we have in any networking environment.
Yeah, it's kind of the weakest link, right? And Rex, I kind of want to hear you talk a little bit about, David Powell has been very active, and Pax8's been really active in providing more training and education around security. Can you talk to us a little bit about David Powell and what he's bringing to partnership Pax8?
Yeah, I was so happy when David came to Pax8, right? He's got such an extensive background, with ConnectWise and Perch and all of that, and really understanding how to help partners, understand how to take advantage of the tools that they can, get from Pax8 and deploy into their end user environments. He's been awesome to work with. He's been on the show a couple times. I know he's been on the game as well. And he recently was interviewed and had an article published about what Pax8's doing to try to help our partners, up their selling of the cyber insurance, or not cyber insurance, cybersecurity to their end users. And if you guys haven't had a chance to look at this, I'm sure we'll get the link to this in the comments. But it's been awesome to watch him come to Pax8 and just dive right into putting a program together to teach partners about how to sell cybersecurity. I wanted to talk. We've been working really hard in Academy to approach how we're going to work with helping partners understand how to sell cybersecurity. And I had an opportunity right after Beyond to go talk to our peer groups, and I went into each of about close to 20 groups, and I asked them all individually, what they wanted from us as we were putting together a program to help them sell cybersecurity. And I started by letting them know that a year and a half ago, our CTO, Scott Chasen, was putting together the vision for Pax8, and he was going around department by department with his slide deck to help get everybody enrolled in our vision. And I remember there was a slide that said, Pax8's ability to grow is highly dependent on our partners' ability to sell. And the next slide said, something along the lines of, our partners rank selling as one of their toughest challenges, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, within Academy, we need to really tackle how to help our partners sell. So I kind of let him know that was driving what we were doing. And then I asked them a question, and I'll let you guys think about it online. But this is a question I like asking when I'm interviewing not only salespeople, but network engineers. Is I could say, this is your inventory, and it's a number 2 pencil with an eraser, a nice cheap throwaway Bic pen, as well as a heavy nice office pen, executive desk pen. And I just say, this is your inventory. I'd like you to sell me something to write with. And when I do that, I get one of 3 answers. And hopefully you guys are thinking about how you might sell me one of these 3 pieces of inventory. But I really get one of 3 answers, which is what I call the like, I'm not going to hire you answer, which is, I don't understand. I'm a technician. Why? I'm an engineer. Why are you asking me to do sales? I don't do sales, kind of thing. And like, I really don't want to talk more to that person, because I do believe we're all selling our ideas all the time. The second answer that I get like 70% of the time is what I call the technician answer. They pick one of these 3 and they start telling me why it's the one I need, right? And they tell me all about it. They tell me this is a consumable. They tell me this feels nice in your hand. Whatever it is they're doing, I try to take note of what they're doing and how they're telling me why it's the one I need. But really, only about 20% of the time do I get the answer I'm really looking for, which is they start asking me questions about why. What do I do with a writing instrument, right? So, and then if they ask me questions, I'll tell them about my pain. And when I tell them about my pain, they'll recommend which one. And I usually lead them toward, my pain is I fill out a lot of forms, and if I make a mistake, I have to start all over. And the right answer is they'll sell me this pencil because it has an eraser, and I don't have to start all over. And like I said, only about 20% of the time do I get that. So I went into these peer groups and I did that same exercise, and I think about 18 of the groups gave me that technician answer. They just started telling me the speeds and feeds of a writing instrument and why it's the one I needed to buy. And only 2 of the groups, which happens to be our largest partners, did they start asking me questions. And I think it's really representative of our partner base, right? Most of us are technicians, and we don't ask questions. We don't seek to understand the pain. We don't seek to understand the risk that our end customers are feeling, and how the solutions and the cybersecurity solutions that we have are designed to mitigate the risks. I love what David Powell's putting together and what this article is about, and what David Powell and Academy are bringing to the table to help teach MSPs to use questions, to explore the pain, to put the solutions together that involve, and that just happen to, well, I guess by design, line up with the products on the Pax8 line cards. So I don't know, what do you think, Chris? I'm not hearing him.
Well, I think what David and what Pax8 are doing, it's really powerful. I remember I've sat in on some of the sessions when he's been presenting in the pilot to partners, and even some of the most mature, largest, most established MSPs that work with us will say, this is exactly what we need. We're still struggling here. And you're right. I think there's a disconnect between just selling security and really understanding the business's perspective and where their clients are coming from as a buyer, as a consumer of security services, and addressing those concerns. So we're going to learn a lot more about that. I know Tracie's got a lot. I'd love to bring Tracie on now and introduce her. Welcome to the show. If you would, I'd love to have you. We kind of call it a humble brag. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, sure. I'd be happy to. Well, hi. Thank you for having me on the show today. It's nice to see Rex and Chris and your team today. I'm Tracie. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at SecureNow. I have been an MSP human firewall mentor, as I would call myself, with BSN for the past little over 3 years now. Prior to my time in human cybersecurity, I was the director of business development for a private cloud company and an MSP in Northern Colorado. So I've spent the last 16 years in the channel. I've told a few folks about my personal story in human cybersecurity, but maybe not all. I used to work for my father, who owns a heavy equipment company in Northern Colorado. I promise I'm a Montana native, so that whole earth moving and construction background of my life does make sense somewhere. And when I was working, with him and for him as a family business, my father's business had actually been hacked, and he, as the CEO, was imitated. And $250,000 of our family funds were taken and never to be seen again. So at that time, 12, 13 years ago, we felt very helpless. And myself, kind of working in sales and marketing for him, I didn't know how I could help. And it was a devastating time. And I did some research and I found there was a community out there of MSPs and IT, professionals who were able to help and work through prevention and remediate some of the security issues that we were seeing in my dad's business. So, that's my background, I suppose. On a personal note, I'm an elected official in the town of Frederick in Northern Colorado. Have been elected since 2020. I serve a large yet small town of 17,000 people and 147 employees who all use SecureNow as their human cybersecurity defense line. So I have a unique user's perspective of what human cybersecurity looks like to an average citizen and small business. I guess most important to me, I'm a mom. I have 3 very active kiddos. We enjoy our time together volunteering in our community, every sport you can imagine. And I love coffee, I love coffee. That's me in a nutshell.
I think that's a requirement with everything that you have going on in
be.
your life. I think that would be, I would call that a performance enhancing drug, honestly, just caffeine and
That's
coffee.
fair enough.
But
Yeah.
now, Tracie,
I was
something
actually a little
else.
nervous there. If you didn't bring it up, I was going to say, and a world-class mom, but there we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. The hardest job that I have, truly.
Wow, that says a lot when you list all the other jobs. That says a lot when that's the toughest one. Now, something else we do on the show, Tracie, is we do a quote every week, and you picked out the quote for today. I would love it if we could bring that up on the screen. And Tracie, I'd love to have you read the quote and tell us, why does this resonate with you?
Yeah, I love this quote. So this quote is, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And this is a family motto of mine and my family. We talk about it a lot with our children, and just kind of your core values, and how you treat others is how you treat yourself, or how you treat yourself is how you treat others. And how you do one project, whether it be the love of your life, basketball or dance, should be how you treat your schoolwork. And I think it's important to recognize that it is a balance. Life's a balance, and I get asked that question a lot in the positions I'm in, of how do you balance everything? And I think the answer is I don't, or you can't. And I think the intent is always there to be able to, how you do one thing is how you do another, and you should be able to do everything very well. I think it's important to recognize it takes an effort, it takes work, it takes partnerships, it takes support, it takes tools and resources to do one thing like you do another. I will mention my oldest daughter. She has that quote written on her pink basketball that she uses every day to get, her free throw shots in, and, all of her kind of daily practices, as a reminder of, how I practice is how I will perform in my games. So how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Excellent. I really like that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that definitely resonates with me.
And I know we talked, I also love you mention balance. And I think in today's age, that work-life balance we talked about, I kind of think that's out the window, but I think, work-life harmony. And one of the things I've always really been impressed with you is how well you flow when, your roles, and it just naturally, that's what you're doing, and where you're at in your present. And that's, the role you're taking, and it's not, oh, I'm turning this off and turning this on. I think there's a flow and harmony. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate
Now,
that as well.
Mike, I have an important question in chat here. And Kristen Fehrenbaugh on Technically Unraveled has been asking her guests, where they stand on the PSL. Just curious if that acronym makes sense, because I didn't quite understand it. But and where do you stand?
That acronym does not make sense. Would you help me enlighten me a bit,
The
please?
pumpkin spice latte.
Oh my goodness sakes. I love that. I was like, gosh, I am just not qualified to answer this question right off the bat. You know what? I mean, I commend those who just love the PSL, as you call it. I'm much more of a chips and salsa any day of any week fan. And so I would choose chips and salsa over PSL. But hey, more power to you on those pumpkin spice.
There you go, Kristen. Put a tick mark in the don't care column, which is where I am.
Oh gosh, I get some hate mail as an elected official. Please don't share my email after this call.
I heard that you're a supporter, but from a distance. That's kind of what I heard. Other people can enjoy it, and you're happy for them. That's good.
Yes,
I like that.
Always.
I want to lean into a little bit with the people first, and the human component. I want you to say again, what did you call yourself? The human firewall mentor?
Yes.
Say that again, and let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, an MSP human firewall mentor. So it matters to me that I'm in this industry because I want to, and I wanted at the time that my father's business had been hacked, and I saw firsthand, and I learned the hard way, that you need to care a lot about what you do and have a passion for your work. And at that time, I had no idea what IT was or could be or how it could affect a family business. But I learned that there were components out there, there were tools, there were people out there who cared about my security. And I think, being a mentor means I've been through a series of scams, hacks, breaches, challenges, tough days myself. And I do not want others to experience that. I do not want small businesses, medium businesses, or people to go through that, because I think so many times our MSP community hears this or hears many quotes of, that breach, it's not going to happen to me. My business is too small. Or like my father's business, we worked in heavy equipment. Who wants information about iron and dirt? So that's the general tone often is, this breach isn't going to happen to me, or hackers want, more valuable information. And I think it's important to recognize as a community in IT, as MSPs, that breach will happen to those businesses, and it will happen to people. And it does change their family tree. It changes their emotions, and it changes how they do business forever. So I think putting people first is a matter of, I think I've mentioned this before to a few of you, it's not a hard sell selling human cybersecurity, it's a heart sell. And it should be, because it's very valuable information that hackers are stealing from humans, from people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a hard sell, it's a heart sell. That's the first time I've heard that, and I heart that.
Aww.
That was deep. I had to listen to that twice. That was kind of like a Jedi kind of thing. You had to say it a couple times to kind of get it. Now, tell me about AI is kind of a big thing that we talk a lot. But how has that changed your perspective, and how does that change, the conversations around cybersecurity, particularly the human element?
Yeah, this is a tough one because I'm in sales and marketing as for my profession. And so AI is so powerful in my line of work. It helps me be more efficient and productive. But there's also, I have a genuine fear and worry about the average, professional not understanding how powerful AI is in phishing simulations, for example. I think it's unfortunate that only 29% of the population could spot a phishing attempt before AI. And now with AI, you have this, kind of some of the training you've practiced in the past or recommended in the past, how to spot those grammatical errors or salutations in a phishing simulation or a phishing threat are no longer the case. And AI has really taken out some of those obvious notifications and alarms that something could be amiss or awry. And so AI is, I see it being embraced more and more in our MSP community and in small businesses, but I do believe it's kind of that cautiously optimistic stance on we don't know everything we need to know about it yet. And I commend those small businesses and MSPs who are putting training relative to AI first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've failed a couple of the Pax8 sent phishing tests lately. Thank you, Tracie. But and the grammar errors and some of that and the misspellings used to be a big tip off, and those just seem to have disappeared. I know both tests I failed. If I was on my PC in Outlook, I probably wouldn't have, but trying to read it on this thing, it's harder to see the real email addresses behind the scenes, and it's harder to check the links to see if they're going to weird places when you're looking at this stuff on your phone. But yeah, the AI aspect of they've kind of cleaned up their act a lot because of it.
Yeah, they have. And just like you are, we're all busy. So, really are humans, our people, our professionals taking the time to pause and not open, that email or not click on that link or continue to add credentials or take the time to go back to the desktop or run it through, some of their tools like Catchfish at Breach SecureNow, where it tells you if it's a phishing simulation, or are they, taking the time to implement their training? Are they doing one thing like they do another and pausing and saying something is suspicious and I need to react appropriately? I thought that was really fun, Rex, running into you at Pax8's event. And I think I was working at the BSN booth and you came over and you said, I failed my phishing simulation today. And you were mad at me about failing your phishing simulation. I enjoyed
You
that
sent
interaction.
that.
On purpose,
No,
like it came from me specifically.
I know. No, and I was more trying to make light of it. Boy, when you said I was mad at you, I remember that one of the first times I was really mad was as a service executive, and the guy I worked for had hired somebody to kind of test the security on our networks, and of course they found something and got in, and I remember feeling pretty violated, right? Like, how dare you, break into my network kind of thing. And I was mad at my boss. It's like, how dare you, have somebody see if they can get in without telling me. And it took me a long time to mature up my attitude on that and realize that individual was helping me be more secure and protect our end customers better because, those pen tests were being done. And I think a lot of cybersecurity in general, people are going to have to go through that same process I went through of being frustrated that I was getting tested, and instead of embracing the fact that, no, that's helping me become better and do a better job protecting our end clients.
I love that. That's such a great story. And Tracie, maybe trying to figure out a great way to word this, but I'd like to hear your perspective on how have you found effective ways to help partners kind of get over that attitude towards it? Just that it was somebody else, not me, or too busy, or whatever. What are some things you've found effective to kind of touch the heart on the cell?
Thank you for bringing that back around. I think the first and foremost is you have to care about the person on the other side of the technology. And in no way is this kind of next component of what I'm about to say, saying that technology is not important. It is. It's vital to many businesses and professions, but it's not everything. And so I think making sure that there's a balance of human interaction and caring about the person who's on the other side of the keyboard is the first step. knowing that most end users have an 8-second attention span, which is slightly less duration than a goldfish, which is pretty wild. We've got to be quick and to the point and hit them with the training that is relatable to them and storytell with them. And instead of just send them facts and figures and doom and gloom and stats, which are very real and viable, we have to tell them stories of, how some small businesses went wrong, or this is a big one, how we're preventing that left of boom or preventing a breach instead of just providing tools to remediate from a breach that we know is going to happen.
Yeah. And I love what Rex said about the changing the attitude about it, right? And,
Absolutely.
Embracing that this is a value add for us to experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody wants that shame and to be the reason, to be the cause of a breach or a hack, or for personal identifiable information to be anywhere. That's embarrassing. And so I think it's also important to have empowering training that encourages end users to say, hey, you're just a human being. We understand. We know you're a busy nurse or you're a teacher, and this is what you do best. And so we have training for you that's customized to your day, and we understand your personality, and we understand your business challenges, and we're going to build kind of this team, this human firewall mentorship program around you to really lift you up and empower you and enable you to make good decisions when it's game time.
It's interesting you put it that way, because I've seen some competing projects to breach SecureNow. And, when you fail, it's like this big flashing red, you failed thing on your screen, right? And just makes you feel terrible as a human, right? But, breach SecureNow, when you do fail, it's like, oh, hey, you didn't pass that one, but let's tell you why and help you understand how to do better next time. Like, it's a very different experience with breach SecureNow than some of your competing products. Do you feel that people respond to that?
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. That's a vital part of why we do what we do is, to assist the MSP community to encourage engagement. We want end users taking training. We want them maybe not falling for phishing attempts, but we want them to understand that they should be a hospitable workplace for phishing simulations because it's for the greater good. So partnering with them to truly dive into human behavior and find out why, not only just why is a human clicking and being kind of part of the problems, but how can we actually flip that script and empower them, encourage them, train them to be those superhuman firewalls to now be not just the greatest vulnerability or risk, but one of the greatest assets of an organization. So I think you bring up a good point. It is what we do best at Breach SecureNow, and I'm very, very proud of that.
And another thing we've kind of learned is that while security isn't a single thing, it's layered, right? We're talking earlier about, it's not a one size fits all. And I think you had kind of a painting kind of analogy or thought around it. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think I've got lots of different analogies, but if I may, since I mentioned one of my daughters, who plays basketball. It's the love of her life. She's 12, so that's fitting that she's already fallen in love with a sport. But I find it interesting having these conversations with her after a game, for example, and maybe she's not the leading scorer, or it's not obvious that she's she won the game for her team. And I've seen her emotions on her face of disappointment, and I've seen her just kind of think a little bit less of herself or not be celebrating her accomplishments very well. And I've also seen her coach pull her aside and have this same conversation that we're having in human cybersecurity of, hey, kiddo, what kind of defense are you providing to your team right now? Off the bench, what kind of energy are you bringing to the court and to your fellow players? And do you have, rebounds to showcase? And have you assisted someone else scoring? And so there's lots of components to a victory for my 12-year-old daughter to feel accomplished and really build on that confidence. It's the same thing in anything else that we do, and most certainly in human cybersecurity. It's not one thing, it's not one player that's going to stop a breach. It's many, and they all really have to work together. They have to know the plays, and they have to kind of be in symphony, if you will, to truly, stop a breach, prevent a breach, or educate on what a breach could do and would do to an organization. So it's not just phishing. It's not just one time a year training. It's not just dark web, training or learning about how to remediate what's on the dark web. It's all of those things every single day working together as a team.
There's one more big one.
Absolutely.
It's being patient. It's being patient while those security patches are getting installed on your computer.
Right.
and being patient when you're having to pause to do the two-factor, enter the number on your phone so it'll log in. But yeah, you got to teach
and
them
a lot
that
of times I
there's a
think we have
reason
to
all
tell
that's going on.
why. Yeah, the reason. I love that you say that, because I know we spent some time kind of asking the general public, the community at SecureNow. We have some baseline assessments that we support our MSP community to use. It's just a tool to understand kind of human behavior wise, what kind of risk is an organization at. And we took some of those questions, there's 60 of them, and we asked the general population of anybody passing by willing to say, hey, I'll answer some of your questions. And one of the questions was, do you know what MFA is? And there were I felt terrible watching the B-reel footage of these videos, because it was embarrassing, it was sad, and it was scary to hear some of the responses of, I know very well what MFA is, and it ticks me off, or it's frustrating, it's annoying. And just some of the verbiage they used to describe MFA was heartbreaking. And so we have a lot of work to do as a community, as a channel, to educate. Hey, I get it's going to take you a couple extra seconds to be patient and, work through your MFA, but here's why. Here's the stories I need to tell you and educate you on, so that you understand the value of just spending 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 8 seconds enabling that MFA.
That's huge. When I could just imagine your face watching this B-roll and just kind of just shaking your head, and I think that I know that being in the industry and having these conversations, I have to remind myself that doesn't mean that the general public, that our partners, clients have the same understand or care. And I love, the connection Rex made and you kind of agreed with, just that understanding the why behind it, and not in like a fear, uncertainty, doubt, or, scare tactic kind of way, but just the reality of the world that we're in. There's a purpose for this. Security is not meant to make our lives easier, right? And we expect technologies that's always connected and on, and things like, to make lives easier, or things more accessible. And security sometimes feels like an impediment. But I really like what you're doing as far as kind of making it a lifestyle. It's not just a tool. It's more of a conscious, the way we live our lives, right? Can you talk a little bit about establishing a culture of security in a business and some of the key components around that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think that falls in line a lot with the quote that I live by, my family lives by: "How you do one thing is how you do another." So, as an MSP, what is your cybersecurity culture? Is it built around, solely around technology, or does it include education of your humans? I think it's really unfortunate in America that about 30% of our population takes at least one training a year, and I say at least, because that's all they're taking is one annual training a year. And so think about all that vulnerability that's left out there. That includes those of us that are in the IT world or our MSPs ourselves. So I think you have to be authentic as an MSP, and be willing to, in some ways, be vulnerable and say, I think I know all of these, human security measures, but I'm going to make sure I implement that at my MSP here first and foremost. I'm going to go through it just as I'm asking my end users to go through it. I'm going to go through annual training. I'm going to take weekly training. I'm going to understand what credentials of mine are on the dark web and why. I'm going to educate myself on, how to catch a fish, or how to slam a scam, and all of those different, kind of culture behaviors that I think we have to implement. And I think, to go along with that, to be honest, Chris, I think we have to keep talking about it. I do not think this is something that's going away anytime soon. I think 95% of the cause of all data breaches are still human beings. So part of our culture is just being honest with ourselves and saying we still have a problem and we have some solutions to apply. Maybe it's time we actually apply those.
Oh, wow. And I think that's, where I've seen some of the content David Powell was talking about and bringing in is helping our partners with those conversations and asking it in a different way, so not just doom and boom, but asking questions in a way that are relevant to their clients and to the businesses. And just, it's amazing how powerful just having that conversation is. So helping the community, helping people have this as an open conversation without, judgment or, just brainstorming ideas and how to instill that as a culture is, I think, the right focal point for our partners. And, businesses like yours have really led the way in enabling that to happen. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Well, I think that brings up a good point, if you don't mind me sharing.
Please.
I think data can be so very powerful, and I appreciate so many MSPs that will call and say, hey, I ran an assessment on this organization and I'm not their MSP yet, and I'm just gauging at baseline what they know and what they don't know. And here's the risk that I see. And data is very powerful, but data is only powerful and useful if you do something about the data. So part of that conversation you're mentioning and being open to having the conversation is talking about the solutions. So here's where you are, organization. Here's the risk score that I've seen from these questions I've asked you and just general assessments that I know of. They're not good. And, these behaviors, especially over a period of time with the number of employees you have, will cause a breach or an intervention or an attack. So here's specifically what we're going to do about it. We're going to implement annual training and weekly training, and we're going to continuously fish your organization to just better understand how you're improving and how we can cheer you on and how we can support you. And then we can continue to see if there's areas of improvement that we all need to address together. So I think it's an important comment, if you will, to say, keep using that data, MSPs, to show risk and value from your MSP, but do something about the data as well.
Yeah. And
speaking of data, we have a little bit of data based on our partners' buying habits. We can see that they're buying 1,000 Microsoft endpoints, but they're only buying 300 free SecureNow licenses, right? Like we can see that, and it worries us that, hey, yeah, you're putting a solution in part of your client base. We have no idea how they're making a decision which part of that client base to put it in. And in their minds, they're thinking, yep, we have that checkbox on the assessment form because we are buying it and putting it in our client base, but it's not 100% of the client base. And we worry about that. Do you have any thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I appreciate you, bringing that up. I know we have a great relationship with Pax8, and I was actually just on a community call with my teammates and our CEO, Art, earlier today, and he was talking about growth with Pax8 partners over time, and he was sharing numbers from 2018, and it was really exciting for me to see that at that time, I think there was 126 Pax8 partners with BSN. Now there's over 600. So you all are continuing that conversation on our behalf and advocating. So thank you for being MSP human firewall mentors yourselves. But I think, it's really important to mention that it's not something that you really need to sell. And that's my recommendation. I mentioned that earlier. It's not a hard sell, it's a hard sell. This is not something that you should be just checking off as a safeguard to qualify for cyber liability insurance, or saying client A should get security awareness training, but not client B because they're tiny and, I'm not going to recoup the cost on that. I'm asking and would empower MSP communities out there to invest in the people, on your behalf, and say, I'm willing for pennies a day. I'm willing to implement, the prevention side of things, because let's just face it, your end users, your small businesses, they think that's what you're doing for them already. You probably sold a cybersecurity suite or a line item, in your contract, and they all encompassing to them, that means everything to them. They think all sides of cybersecurity is what's included in that. You all know that. I remember that from my MSP experience. I would specifically be worried about listing out which firewall I was using or which filter I was using, because they like to pick it apart and kind of pick on you as an MSP about what you're providing at what pace and what cost. But instead of kind of looking at it like a line item, look at it like it's a lifestyle, like Chris said, like it's part of your culture, and saying, hey, this is not a point of negotiation. In order to serve you as your trusted IT advisor in your MSP, we are implementing ongoing and annual security awareness training, and it's already built into my solution stack, and there's no negotiation involved, because it is a part of the equation, as you mentioned, that has not been considered for too long. And that is why we see breaches relative to human behavior still happening.
Yeah. Now,
what a great answer.
Something else. You are good at storytelling, and that's something that's kind of, I think, important to you in the way you connect with people. And you talk about bringing things relevant to the conversations and the data points, right? You got to do something with it. Tell us a little bit. I'm going to bring up a subject about some gift cards. And I think if you don't mind sharing, because I think this is part of that open communication, you've shown that before, but tell us a little bit about that story and how that goes back to the data and illustration of the risks and the impact and how you've seen that play out.
Yeah. That was a tough day. That, as I mentioned earlier, and as you know me, as the mayor of a community about 17,000 in Colorado, when I became the mayor of the town, I didn't want to go in asking cybersecurity questions or, how old is our server? And, do we have everything backed up in the cloud? And I didn't want to go in asking IT questions. That's inappropriate. First of all, as an elected official, I don't need to, have my community buy into what I do as a profession. And that was not my role. My role is to be a public servant. So I, in all fairness, kind of just progressively flowed into my role and didn't ask a lot of IT related questions. I knew and could see from my naked eye, what needed to be improved in the community. I thought, well, we'll get there. But not 2 weeks in, I'm sitting in a meeting with our town manager, and we're talking about, population and, which park we're going to work on with our capital improvement fund and all of those kind of things that improve someone's quality of life in the town. And in comes barreling in the door, one of our teammates who said, "Oh, I'm so glad, Mayor, that you're here and that our town manager is here. Town manager, I'm omitting names here, but town manager, I have, all those gift cards that you emailed me about, those Google Play cards. And I just thought, I know you asked me to send you all the codes via email, but I knew you were in the meeting and I was stopping by town hall anyway, so I just wanted to drop them off." And the look on our town manager's face was terrified, because he's sitting across from the mayor and he's like, "I didn't ask for any gift cards. Like, I promise I'm not abusing funds. I don't know what's going on." And it all just started to unfold, and where I just paused and said, "Can I ask a question? Did you check for sure that it came from said town manager?" And we kind of unpacked the email a little bit, and he pulled it up on his phone, and lo and behold, it was a scam. And it was a conversation. It was a series of emails that had this highly intelligent professional within our town falling for it and thankfully bringing said gift cards to town hall instead of emailing these codes and never having seen the value of those ever again. But, at that point I said, okay, we've got to unpack some of these layers a little bit and put some prevention and security in place, because every single business, every municipality, every school district, every police department, every human being deserves to understand what tools and resources they have at their fingertips or in partnership with you to prevent things like that from happening. It was mortifying. It was embarrassing. And I'm thankful that it happened and unfolded the way that it did, because it could have been a heck of a lot worse. And try talking to your community about that and telling them that's where several $1,000s went, was to gift cards that you never see again.
It seems like every time I did a press release that we hired a new person or a new coach or a new whatever, um, it seems like as soon as that information becomes kind of public, they get the email that I need a gift card from them. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how fast it hits their inbox.
Yeah.
It
It-
really is. And they're, as you said earlier, they're educated. They get it. They know, how to efficiently hack a human being. They watch behaviors. I mentioned my dad's story earlier. That wasn't something that happened overnight. Someone knew my dad was using the same password on his email, work email, and his personal email. And they hacked in and they watched for a very long time, saw the behaviors, figured out who he was asking financial questions, and ultimately who he would get involved with on wire transfers. And you think it happens like that, and sometimes it does, but in many cases, it's a slow roll and it's painful either way.
yeah. It's a real world example, and to see the impact. I appreciate you sharing that. That's not a fun thing, but I think that people can learn from that, from other people's experiences. And I think sharing that is really powerful. Now, one of the other
I love that
things
you're
that,
I love that you're willing to be vulnerable and talk about some of that stuff, because we need more of that. Because that's how people get vulnerable themselves when they're communicating back with us, and helps us figure out how to help them.
Yeah, I
absolutely, I
appreciate it.
love that.
Mm.
Um, one of the other challenges a lot of MSPs are facing with is insurance. Do you have any thoughts or ideas or insight into what you've seen in the industry uh, regarding insurance and cybersecurity insurance?
Insight relative to just my role at BSN, yes. But being an expert, no, that's not my lane. But I will say, from a user's perspective, from a community trying to qualify for cyber liability insurance, and my role at Breach Secure Now helping MSPs qualify for cyber liability insurance, I do see that drastically changing. And here's how I see that changing. I think, after a period of time, and I can't say exactly when, but I think, those check boxes, those safeguards, those conversations we're all having now about, do you have MFA enabled? Do you have backup and disaster plans, disaster recovery plans? All of those general check boxes and safeguards, all of that's going to need to get more granular in order to qualify for cyber liability insurance. I think there's going to be this effort and this push from that industry to say, prove it, and prove it consistently. And I want to see, as the cyber insurance company, I want to see the reports on who's engaging and who's interacting and who's taking training, and, who are the weakest links, and were they the cause of the breach? Because maybe there's some disqualifications, or not being able to qualify at all in the first place because of that. So I think that industry is in a trajectory changing market right now, in that they're going to start asking MSPs and end users to prove it with their behavior every single day.
Okay.
Spot on.
Well, um, Tracie, I'd like to kind of bring to a recap and kind of ask you, tell us, what are the three most important things people can do to stay safe this month?
Ooh. Let's see. Change your passwords. Encourage others to change their passwords. And I know the general consensus of the community is using password management systems or teams. So changing those frequently, using phrases for your passwords. I think that's an important component to educating on passwords as well. It's not just, the capital letter and the number and the, the numerical sign, different things like that. There's some other suggestions at Breach Secure Now, like using phrases to be able to remember, but also be stronger, more secure. I think that's really important. Absolutely, enabling that MFA, I think that's vital to any organization. I know it's going to take a couple of extra seconds, but just from the beginning, from day one, implementing MFA for your clients and end users, or as a user yourself, embrace it. It is the preventative piece that I wish my father had in place prior to that breach, and I do believe it would have helped stop that. And then train, have conversations every day, not once a year, and not for 4 or 5 hours, for a couple of minutes every day. So it's top of mind. So it is part of your lifestyle and it is part of your culture.
Very good.
And if you're not doing it now, this is Cybersecurity Month. No better time to get started.
Yes, I did bring a few slides with me. If you don't mind me sharing that with your community today, I did bring just a couple of those slides. It is, as you've mentioned, October Cybersecurity Awareness Month. At SecureNow, we went with a Stranger Things, friends don't lie theme this year. But what we like to provide to the community, very complimentary, if you don't mind sharing the next slide, is a marketing toolkit. And that is, we've talked a lot today about how do we have this conversation with our end users, and how often, and at what tone and at what pace. And we try to take a lot of that guesswork out of it for you as the MSP community and say, here's what we recommend you share every single day, 31 days in October. We've given you 31 tips within this kit. On the next slide, you'll see a couple of other pieces to that. We've got infographics, flyers, blogs, every resource and medium you can imagine, because it is not going to just take one piece of collateral to tell this story. It's going to take many. How you do one thing is how you do another. So we need to talk to your end users 10 different times in 10 different ways for them to really absorb, hey, I need to do something about my security awareness. I need to partner with my MSP community to do something about it. And why not start in October, when we're not only celebrating that it's Awareness Month, but we're kind of going back in history and saying, since 2004, since the internet, since hacks started happening, today in 2023, 95% of the time, it's still a human being that's the cause of that breach and attack. So wanted to just mention to your community, they have access to that through their Pax8 partnership. They can reach out to their team member at Pax8 to access that. It's all bundled neatly into a folder so that they can, kind of share at their leisure. And of course, we're happy to help along the way if they need anything.
Great resources. Really impressed with having that and making that available to partners. That's really powerful. Now, Tracie, is there anything? Go ahead, Rex.
I was just gonna say anything our vendors are doing to help the partners, better, arm their clients to be cyber secure. Just warms my heart.
Tracie's.
What's the top conversation? So sorry.
Yep, it is. Is there anything we didn't get to mention? I want to give you an opportunity if there's anything that we forgot to, ask, or anything you'd like to say, or any last thoughts for us?
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the platform, the opportunity to have this conversation. I am very proud to be an MSP human firewall mentor. So if there is anything I can do for this community, as I mentioned very early on, this is personal for me. This is, something I joined this industry 16 years ago because I never thought it would happen to my family. And I do not want it to happen to yours. So if there was anything today, or anything in your MSP security stack, or anything as a small business that you wish you knew, or you'd like more information on, I'm more than happy to help share, my perspective, my stories, but certainly help share some solutions for you. So please reach out. I'm more than happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tracie. Really appreciate you being here. I didn't get it referred to you as Madam Mayor at some point. I wanted to throw that in, but just very glad to know you and appreciate you being here and your time. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
Tracie.
thank you.
That's fantastic.
Yes, good to see both of you.
Help us get this message out. All right. So final thoughts,
we were going
right?
to sit there for 2 minutes.
There we go. All right. See, this was a Stranger Things.
I was thinking for a minute there, Chris. You looked a little different.
I was channeling that. It is October, getting ready for Halloween. I thought I was kind of gonna pull that off for you, but all right, let's pull this back together. Rex, final thoughts.
Oh, Cybersecurity Month. I am so glad we're participating. Pax8's participating in a big way, trying to get the awareness of that we need to protect ourselves, right? And as Pax8 and as our partners, we have to get everything right. And the bad guys only got to get one thing right, and it's such a challenge. And every it's it's all about defense in depth. And I love the way Tracie was referring to the human firewall, right? Like 95% of the breaches, I think was a statistic I heard, occur at that level. And the more we can do to help educate everybody that we all have to do our part, the better.
Yeah. And I think I'm so glad as well. I love that, learning kind of the history and how far this goes back as far as the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I love what Tracie said about having these conversations. We need to talk about this. The reality is, it is kind of scary. The reality of what's out there, and like you said, it only takes one incident, one thing for the bad guys. There's a lot of work to be done, and we need to, as a community, take our part to help us stand better against the threats that are out there. My big thing I'd pull people to do is action, that awareness, but really committing yourself to doing something. Pick something small. It doesn't have to be 70 things, but one thing, everything we can do to be a little bit better is going to really pay off. So that's kind of some of my final thoughts. So
Totally agree.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to check us out next week. Our guest will be Roger Harris, Director of Risk and Anti-Fraud at Pax8. He will tell us about how to avoid cyber fraud. Remember, we're live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain and on demand always. But don't forget to subscribe and like us on our YouTube channel, please. So Rex, take us out.
I normally say, what are you going to do tomorrow? But with cybersecurity and the importance of it, because we're normally talking about operational topics, think about it overnight, and I want to know what you're going to do tomorrow. But cybersecurity, what are you going to do today to improve your business? Thanks, everyone.